Hey, boys and girls, we are back ready to continue reading The War with Grandpa. Okay, pretty exciting. We are near the end of the third quadrant. And so as we do that, we take a close look at a couple things, and those are our learning targets. Okay, so we take a close look at making predictions, which is what we've been doing the whole time. We're always thinking ahead, trying to infer, trying to determine importance, make predictions about what will happen next, and then make predictions about the main character, how he's changing, and what that means for the story. All of that to identify the turning point. Okay? And the turning point is the point in the story where we have an abrupt change. So often that's the point where we see the most evidence about the character and what his lesson is and how he is learning and changing. Okay, so just a little review. We've been doing this by creating an evidence collection box. You each should have your own. May not look just like this, but maybe it's a notebook page. Okay, and then we know that we were together. We had created this last comment about war causes friends to be angry with each other. And that was where we left off in the video, the last video we watched. So today we're going to read the next two chapters together. I'll do the reading. You can read to yourself in your book, or you can follow along here. So everybody has a text to look at and connect to. Our stem that I'll be modeling today to help us think about the story is when the book said blank. I was thinking this was an important event because blank. This helps me think. So that is how we are going to get started on our story today. So we're starting with chapter 28, page 100. You can pause the video and get your materials if you don't have them yet. It's important to have what you need. Really important to record your information in your book club notebook. So get your materials. All right, I'm starting on page 100. Again, with these being our goals today. Here we go. Playing hardball. It did not take Grandpa too long to discover that his watch was missing. Oh, remember? They had a really good day fishing, enjoyed each other's company. We saw what we thought were some changes in Peter, and then he took his watch. All right. It did not take Grandpa too long to discover his watch was missing, and I guess he didn't have to walk around trying to figure out where it had gone. He came upstairs the next morning. It was a Sunday, and I was waiting around for Mom and Dad to wake up so I could go downstairs for breakfast. I heard Grandpa coming. I grabbed a book so I could be pretending to read. Grandpa knocked on my door ever so lightly, then pushed it open a crack to look in. "Awake, I see," he said. He came in and sat down in my rocker. He was wearing his pajamas, robe, and slippers. "A funny thing happened this morning," he said. "I went to slip my watch on, and guess what? It seemed to be missing from my dresser." "Is that so?" I said in a casual way. "That's a fact." "Well," I said, "maybe there was a thief who came into the house last night and stole it." "I don't think so," Grandpa said, "seeing as how my wallet was on the dresser too. Right next to my watch, and it wasn't even touched. I had quite a few dollars in it too." "Well, maybe it was a very dumb thief," I said, "or a thief who needed only a watch." Grandpa looked at me and grinned. I didn't blame him. What I'd said sounded stupid to me too. "How come you didn't leave a note?" Grandpa said. "I think we're just past all that," I said. "Maybe so." "I took your watch," I said. "We both know that." Grandpa kind of shook his head a little. "I was kind of thinking maybe our little war was over," he said, "especially after yesterday. I had a good time fishing with you. Pete, you're very good company." "Well," I said, It wasn't your average kind of day for me either. I had one of the best days of my life with you. But, I said, and sort of shrugged. It doesn't change things, Grandpa. So I see. There's something I want, and you have it, and I don't know what else to do except fight for what's mine. Wow. So I'm thinking about our objectives here and our goals of making predictions, identifying the turning point. I'm a little confused, right? Because Peter took the watch, and that doesn't seem like a good quality of somebody who's changing. We thought he was changing when he enjoyed fishing and appreciated his grandpa's company. When Peter said he doesn't know what else to do but fight, except to fight, I was thinking this was an important event. It shows that Peter doesn't really want to fight with his grandpa. He just doesn't know how else to solve the disagreement. Okay? Seems like he just doesn't know when to quit. All right? This makes me think maybe Peter's starting to learn that war is harmful. Maybe. So, making some predictions here, sharing my thinking. Let's keep reading. If you want to stop the video, rewind, or think about it yourself, it's a great time to pause. We are at the top of page 102. Too bad, Grandpa said. But look, Petey, I have a special reason for wanting my watch back. It was a gift from Grandma, you see, on our 40th wedding anniversary. I treasure it, son. Well, now I felt like the most miserable, low-down person in the whole wide world. But I wasn't about to give up. It's in a safe place, Grandpa, I said, and I'll take care of it. That's so interesting. So he feels really bad. He feels like the most miserable, low-down person in the whole wide world. But he still took it. He seems to be, maybe he's regretting what he's doing. Maybe he is changing. I didn't have to take care of it at all because it was wrapped up nice and snug in a pair of my white socks and hidden away in a tennis ball can at the bottom of my camp trunk. So we kept it somewhere safe. I could probably find it if I looked, Grandpa said. I don't think so, I said. I'm pretty good at looking, Grandpa said. When you're in school, Pete, I've got all day to turn this place over. You could look for 1,000,000 years and never find it, I said. Oh, Grandpa sighed and rocked a few times in the chair. I'd rather you hand it back to me yourself, he said. No way, I said. Not until you give me my room back. I've heard that before, he said. How about if I say please? Look, Grandpa, I said, all you have to do is tell Mom and Dad that you want to switch rooms with me. That's it, isn't it? That's easy, isn't it? Grandpa took a long look in my eyes, rocking gently in the chair. You're really like a broken record. You know that? He said. I only want what's rightly mine, I said. So, Grandpa said, now we're playing hardball, eh? I'm not playing, I said. No room, no watch. Fair enough, Grandpa said. He got up and slowly walked to the door. But from now on, he said, you had better watch out. Wow. Okay. So we are moving on to chapter 29. Okay. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. So that's an expression that means he's waiting for the next thing to happen. So Grandpa walks away. He knows Grandpa understands and has figured out that he has the watch. So he's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Did you ever know something terrible was going to happen, but you didn't know when? That's what that expression means. That's the way I felt that whole time when Grandpa waited before striking back at me. It was real smart of him. Diabolical, if you want to know the truth. I walked around going crazy for about a week, a whole week. I walked around. I mean, it's hard to be calm when someone is going to do something to you and you don't know what or when it's going to happen. I lay awake without sleeping a few nights, wondering when the blow was going to come down. It reminded me of this story about an old Greek guy named Democles, who went to a party where they hung a sword over his head by a hair. It had to be either a very skinny sword or a very fat hair. But either way, it couldn't have been too comfortable to be waiting for that sword to come down and slice into human chicken parts. I felt like I was in the dentist's office, waiting my turn, wondering how much it was going to hurt. Ooh, we're going to stop there a minute. I got to share some thinking here. When the book said that Peter was waiting for his grandpa's next attack and wondering how much it was going to hurt, I was thinking it's an important event because he's worried. I think he's regretting, right? I'm making predictions, but I think that he's regretting and maybe thinking that war might hurt, right? Before he thought all was fair. But I think maybe he knows it will hurt. When Grandpa fights back or retaliates, means he tries to get him back, I think that will hurt. So we have to add on, get out your book club notebook. We ended up with the blue one. It's time to add this in. Peter knows that when an opponent retaliates, so that's when he gets him back, it will hurt. And my evidence for that was in the story. And he was wondering how much it was going to hurt. Wondering and worried. Okay. So your chance to write this down in your notebook. Okay, pause the video. And then when you're done, we'll be back here reading some more. On page 105. Welcome back. It's the same feeling I get in school before a test, when everything I studied just jumps out at my head. You could ask me my own name just before a test, and I might not know it. And Grandpa was teasing me, which didn't help a lot. You look nervous, he'd say. I am, for goodness sakes, I'd say. I wish you would do something already. Patience, he'd say with a funny smile that gave me a chill. Psychological warfare, right? I mean, he was messing with my mind. And the more he waited, the more messed up I got. I left one of my school books home one day. I just plain forgot it. I knew why, because I was too busy worrying over what kind of trick he was going to pull on me. Grandpa told me a joke one afternoon. It was about a guy who lived below a man who took off only one shoe when he got in bed at night. The man below couldn't hardly sleep, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I didn't think it was very funny. Okay, so that expression, waiting for the other shoe to drop, okay, that's connected back to our first sentence. Did you ever know something terrible was going to happen, but you didn't know when? So he's waiting. He's waiting for Grandpa's next move. All right. And I think he's really worried. So, when the book said that Peter didn't think war was funny, what did this show that Peter has learned? My goodness, I think he's learning a lot. I think that this is another important event. I think he's changing, and again, he knows that war really hurts. And I think it's a really big change. Okay, I think that he does not think it's very funny is a big statement coming from Peter. Okay, and if we're looking for a point where the book makes a dramatic turn, okay, I think we're there. Okay, we are at the end of the third quadrant. We've passed our third sticky note. Okay, and Peter no longer thinks that war is funny, right? He came right out and said it. I didn't think war was funny. It's not something to mess around with. You don't go to war with family. And he thinks that the war, it's no longer a thing you do with family. So when the book says Peter realizes war isn't funny, we need to write that down. We're going to circle it and identify that as the point in the book where, right? So we've been building up in the story with all the events. Okay. We have the end of the first quadrant where we're figuring out, learning about the characters. We keep learning more about the characters. We keep understanding more about Peter and Grandpa. Okay. The plot continues. They keep pranking each other. Okay. The story continues. We've made it through. Okay. The first three quadrants. And now we are expecting right here a change. And we have one quadrant left. And that's where we will pick up the next time we read. So we label this part in our book, okay, the turning point, okay? Because something's going to happen that changes the action in the story. Okay, we're not done yet. But first quadrant, second, third, this is the third quadrant here. Okay. And now we're entering the fourth quadrant. And that's where we learn how Peter and Grandpa find resolution. If Peter doesn't think war is funny, we look back at some of our words and we know that at the end here, okay, we got to scoot this up here. That doesn't quite fit. But we need to find out how their problem gets resolved. The root word here is solve. Okay, how they come to a solution, how they solve their problem. All right, all that's going to get wrapped up and tied up in the next quadrant. Okay, so we are close. We are close to finding out how the story ends. Okay, so we can think about making predictions. Okay, based on this evidence. Okay, and that is one of the things that you're going to do in your lesson is make a prediction. Because Peter realizes war isn't funny. What do you think he's going to do? Okay, so this will be a question that you answer in your seesaw assignment. Okay, and I'll type it in there. And then the next time we read together, we will find out what happens, how this plot changes, and how the problem is resolved in the story. All right, until then, boys and girls, you can go back and re-listen if you want to. Make sure you get your evidence here in your evidence collection box gathered. And we will be back before you know it, finishing up the story. Okay, it won't be long now. All right. Until next time.